Alright, I'm Mr. Wasik, and this is our new addition to Nerf Club. This is the new Rival Hypnos that just came out first thing in 2019. It's a single shot pump action shotgun style, although is it a true shotgun if it only fires one round? Doesn't really matter. It's kind of the successor to the Nerf Atlas, which fired two at the same time and was a pump action. Yeah, let's see how it is. All right, I just want to start this video with a look at the Atlas, which is the predecessor to the Nerf Rival Hypnos, both kind of shotgun pistol grip style blasters. I feel like Hasbro incorporated a lot of the things that I did to my Atlas that I had. They improved the way the magazine goes in, whereas this one could sometimes catch on the way in, and getting it out like it was reasonably difficult. And the fact that this blaster loaded two, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I modified mine so that only a single ball goes in. It was a reasonably involved process. And I've actually got a jam that I got to work out, so you can see it's imperfect. I think that's because I took the magazine in and out several times there. When it's working properly, it captures just one and then brings it down. I don't know if you can see in the barrel there, if it's bright enough for you, but I actually cut in a little zap strap to give it some hop up, which is missing from the Atlas. So it fires a single and it's got hop up. So if we're looking down range here a little bit, you can see that the hop up makes those shots reasonably level. It's reasonably light draw weight on the Atlas. The internals on this guy are reasonably complex, the way that it captures those shots. It took a lot of work to single fire this one, so I'm glad that Hasbro's come out with a blaster that can do this already straight out of the box. So looking at this guy, the magazine release right here that's sprung is fantastic. Nice and easy to get out. Good positive engagement. Clicking it in, you can hear the click. They've got a stock on this one that you don't have to use, but you can. That just kind of clicks into this little piece right here, and then you can open up. I'm not a huge fan of having stocks, but it's fine. It's nice to have. If that's your thing, it just clicks into place there, so it shouldn't break loose. Your unjamming button there, and you can see that the mechanism is actually reasonably different on the inside here. So just, if you can see that as it loads, it comes up to mouth a dart or mouth a rival ball, and then comes back down. And you can see on the inside there, hopefully, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see all the way down in the dark. We'll close the jam door and then get a sense for how this fires. Again, looking down range here. And this one does have built-in hop up on the inside, similar to some of the other Rival Springers now, which is good. So that should improve its accuracy and range a little bit. At some point, because I am a science teacher, I'd like to get into the science of how that hop up works. Basically, putting backspin on the ball gives higher velocity air on the top of the ball as it's traveling, which is pretty cool. But I will discuss that phenomenon at a later date. For now, what I would like to do is actually get into this blaster, which I think Drac has done on his page up to this point, but I don't think anyone's actually pulled it apart to see if this puppy can take a K26. And apologize for the motion of doing head mounted with the GoPro, but I find that it's the best way to make sure we can actually view everything in close-up detail. So hopefully you're not a person who gets nauseous as we go through. This is my first time into this blaster, so hopefully all goes well. And I'm actually going to get my magnetic tray. There we go. This little puppy, hopefully, can... There, it does pop out. Good. Okay. Scarred that a little bit getting it out, but it is just a press fit, so if you pry at that, it's resilient enough to come off. So let's get a good look at this guy. The mechanism for the clip is at the top there. Just sprung on. So we'll take a look at the top of this mechanism where it mouths a dart at the top. It doesn't look too dissimilar to the internals on the Atlas, or even at a more fundamental level to the Helios in terms of the catch mechanism that it's using at the back. So let's see if we can get this out. How are we attached in here? Let's see. Can we? Oh, that whole mechanism. All right, I'm gonna slide this back. Let's see. So that whole mechanism pops here, and 2 screws this time to be able to access the front here. And that's a heck of a bumper on the front. I've never seen one quite that robust. Okay, so let's see if we can get into these screws to take off the catch for the piston here. Just gonna pull this out. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. There's the first. Pop. And the second. And I'm just going to leave them in order to help me remember how this goes in. Now, I've never been into this blaster before, so hopefully I can get it back together successfully. Otherwise, that's going to be some mild tragedy here. Ooh, that's some hefty spring weight going on there. That might be a challenge getting back in. So now I can release this mechanism off, and let's see, is this together or is it just press fit? Ah, there's 2 screws at the front. That's a little bit like what you might see on the Hades or on the Artemis, except that you've got 4 screws on the front on those ones. Hopefully you can see okay. As I'm going in here, I'm just taking this faceplate off. And it is under some significant pressure in there. Wow. That is interesting. That'll be maybe challenging to compress a K26 into that space. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like under some preload pressure, I might actually do a slightly shorter spring. So it's not under quite as much preload pressure. Also want to be careful, see this spring here, don't lose it, if you can see right there, as this fits into those slots. So I'm gonna leave this here and here. Also gonna just put some Teflon tape under this seal to give it a little bit more jam. Apologize for all this motion. For any among you who get motion sick, I'm gonna tuck that right down inside. There we go. There we go. And then this should fit much more snugly there. I'm also going to get a little bit of lubricant right here. And lubricate the inside of the shell here. And the outside here. Now this is going to be a little bit of trial and error. Again, there's a pretty snug fit there. I'm going to experiment taking just a little bit off the length of this with a K26 here. So again, a bit of a tighter coil on that. Should have had all my tools ready, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go a little bit shorter just to here to start. I can always shorten it up more if need be. Gonna bend this to get in. And hopefully you can see. So I'm going in and snip. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna just smooth that out a little bit. All right. And then, I don't know if you can see, but once you cut a spring, they have kind of a harsh arc to them, so you kind of need to bend them down a little bit with 2 sets of pliers if possible, like so. So what that does is just flattens the end, so it's not quite so aggressive. And we're gonna see if this fits on okay. See if we can pop it over here. There we go. Get a nice secure fit around there. Although it's pretty tight. Okay, we're gonna give this a shot. And just looking at where the groove needs to sit here, there we are. And this is gonna be pretty jammy, I think, in terms of trying to get this to actually fit on. Gonna be snug. All right, so to fit this guy in, set like so, getting this groove centered in the top, and then this over top, each of those sides slides there, and then sliding this over and capturing that spring, and then sliding down like so. Now this is a bit of a dance trying to get these in. And you can't press too hard on that bottom post without being in some trouble. So just trying to get in enough that I can get a thread on here and have this screw do some of the work for me, ideally, and then get a next in. So that is significantly difficult to hold under this tension. Not impossible, but certainly difficult. Maybe for somebody who has smaller hands would be challenging, and depending on what your hand strength is, easier or harder. Okay. Whew. Okay. Still here. Good. Okay, oh, that's interesting. I could have popped that off. That would have made that easier. That's interesting. Okay, would have been good. Would have been really smart, actually. So, goodness, I hope, yeah. So for anyone who's doing this the next time, pop that out first, and then you can push as hard as you please on this without risking damaging this. Okay, well, live and learn. That would have been smarter. Okay, so let's try and get this puppy in. All right, so I've taken this piece off for safekeeping while we attempt here to get our lock back in place, which is gonna sit here. And this is the mechanism that has the catch on the back for catching the spring. And let's get in here and see if we can pull this out far enough to capture it. It's gonna be challenging, honestly. Wow, okay, so that is a real struggle getting this in under that tension. I had to use the screwdrivers as a pry bar to get that out, and then hold the screwdriver at a hard angle to be able to get that in. But now I can get in and get these screws. Oh, shaky hands. Help me out here. All right. All right, we're gonna get one screw in here to secure, and then a second, keeping my eye on my time here. Okay. Whew. All right.
Now you're going to need to be very careful here. This blaster is actually pretty difficult to assemble. Sliding the barrel up the way that I'm doing there is the wrong idea. What it does is drives a lower section backwards and interferes with the priming rail. The other issue that I've got here is the priming rail is too far backwards, which interferes with the trigger. It's making it hard to get everything in, but it also means once you get it assembled, the trigger will not be able to be pulled. So I'm all in all just mangling this right now. Now you can see just there the posts underneath. They do fit really snugly, and because of the tension with that heavier spring inside, it's forcing the piston body forward into the barrel there, and you are going to need to press it in pretty firmly, but with the barrel down rather than tilted up. You can get it in, you'll feel a nice firm click, but do make sure that the slide rail is all the way forward before you attempt this.
There we go. Okay. Good. All right. And I don't know if you could see it there, but actually the issue for me getting it in and seated was this little puppy right here. I'm going to have to walk this down now into place. Okay, so it's sealed up against it. Everything is in place. We've got our trigger mechanism in, and I think we can put the shell back on at this point. That was not easy. I've done lots of blasters, including some of the more complex ones like the Sling Fire, putting in heavier springs. But this one is a challenging blaster, so unless you have some chops at getting into these, I don't recommend it as a starter to go in. Let's see if we can. All right, welcome back. Had some technical difficulties trying to get this puppy back together, but as with all things new, when you're learning, it takes a little bit of time. I tell my students that all the time, that you have to fail to succeed. So I actually broke this thing, nothing major, but I put it back together. I shouldn't say broken, but misassembled in a way that would not allow functionality. And at this point, I'm gonna go through and show you the internals properly. And you can pry that guy right out, just like I did last time. Set this out. Now I have taken out the safety, just because it really isn't doing anything. My mistake in what I had was I did not have this track far forward enough. So if this track is back at all, you'll know, because the trigger will not be able to fire, because as this is actuated up, it's going to run into the rail here, so you're not going to be able to move the trigger. And I should have known that the trigger should be running free, but I haven't run this blaster enough. So I put it back together and it was not working yet. You'll also notice that this is right up to the front. So if we're kind of looking down here, that the prime handle is right up to the front of the blaster. Now, as I went through to put this catch back in that video previously, that was one of the most challenging steps, aside from getting the front shroud on. Make sure that you use this tab to remove the longer rail at the back here. Don't do what I did and leave this on, because you can see I've fatigued the plastic a little bit here and here because I left that in while I was trying to do all that high torque work. So make sure you do take that out. I'll just show you briefly here. This does come out, and if you pull on that, you can pull it out. When you are trying to feed this back in, you kind of have to snake it underneath it first and then through, and then you may have to pry this up a little bit to get that piece back in once the whole blaster is back in place. You'll notice where these guys are lined up. It is a really tight fit trying to slide everything in, but there are two posts just underneath here that are sitting in, but you'll notice everything sits really flush when it's seated properly. There's a fair bit of tension between the front barrel and this, but that is released when you prime. So when this pulls back, it's going to pull that entire body away from that, which releases the pressure so that it can rotate up, mouth a dart or mouth a rival ball, high impact round, and bring it back down. So at this point, everything is functioning. It fires really well with that K26 spring. It's a bit of a heavier draw, and because this handle's so low profile, I actually added a little bit of tape to get the grip working on it. I'm going to do a reassembly here and then just give a little bit of a firing demo. So I'm going to put this on. It should come together reasonably nicely. Now you're going to have to pull that unjamming into position to make sure it can sit properly. Just give it a little wiggle. Now it's here, 1 second, and then just make sure everything should kind of move in. Good. This should move freely if you're in correctly, and the trigger should also move freely. I'm just gonna give it a bit of a jiggle here, trying to get everything in. There we are. Satisfying snap, and everything is seated together. You'll notice that there's no gaps in any of those cracks. So this is what we look like, fully reassembled. I'm just going to put these screws in. I'll remind you that the shorter ones, I don't know if you can see it here in terms of a length comparison. These shorter ones right here go in the middle and 3 in the handle. These standard length screws go everywhere else. All right, we are back for a final firing demo. I just want to show you that this puppy actually does work. And we've got one in, and she fires pretty hard, as you can hear. Just going to show again how this works in its proper functioning here. You can watch it come up and mouth a dart, and then come back down. And again, I don't know if you can see down the barrel right there. Okay, you can see it's got a dart, and then we'll go back up and bam. Apologize for taking out Noah's Ark there as far as artwork is concerned, but we're probably about 50 feet here to the wall in terms of distance, and so fires pretty hard, fires pretty far. Again, everything's working properly. At this point, now that we troubleshot and got it back together, I think it's a pretty good blaster, guys. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully you think so too. Comment, leave me some advice about how to do a better job on my videos. Be kind, please. Constructive criticism. And yeah, hope you're all doing well. Take care.